And I'm here for a massive, a beautiful, a huge round 16 review of, let's say, a belter of a round of footy. I'm your host, Christopher Pepper, the 377 games superstar of the East Keeler Football Club. And if you've never joined Lace Out before, thank you very much. What's taking you so long? We've only been going for 6 years. And if you're a returning guest, thank you very much for listening to us on a weekly basis, because without you, we wouldn't have a show. And it's simply that too. So, hey, look, cracker of a show we've got planned for you tonight. Lots to get through. Round 16, a pretty easy round from a football tipping perspective, except for one team who I'm going to get into a little bit later. I'll give you a hint. It starts with D, ends in Emans, and is a little bit on the nose when it comes to this young man, as you know, being a massive Melbourne supporter. But we're going to be going through all the usuals. We've got the people on the chats going live with me tonight. We've also got all the people listening in on your favorite podcast apps, smart speakers, headphones, wherever you're joining us. Thank you very much. But yeah, lots to get through. We're going to start with the ladder as we always do, because there has been some movement after the weekend's games. Rising star. We'll get into swinging some magnets. We'll get into a quick round over the games, go through the listener questions coming through on the chat as we speak. But great weekend of footy. You actually got to go down and watch some local football on the weekend as well. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do so, because the umpiring standard's better. The football standard, I would say, is actually a lot harder. It's a lot more free-flowing as well, too. Scores tend to happen quite a fair bit, and we're getting towards the pinchy end of a number of leagues as well, too. So I would strongly recommend get down. I'm going to be having a look at East Keeler potentially this weekend as well, too. So I'll be going down there supporting the Cougars as they drive for their first venture back into the Essendon District Football League Premier Division finals since 1995. So a long time between drinks. All right, let's go and have a look at the ladder, because after the weekend's games, there was a little bit of movement, I must admit, but there was also a bit of shaking and bacon when it came to one team as well, too. So Collingwood and Port Adelaide, 52 points apiece. They are sitting mighty fine at the top of the AFL ladder. They're going to be your top two. No two doubts about it. It just depends which order it's going to be for the third and fourth team. At the moment, that's the Brisbane Lions, sitting on 44 points, 2 games behind Port and Collingwood, and I don't think they've got any chance. Listeners who are listening to this right now, is there any chance of the Brisbane Lions getting 2 home finals? They're going to have to pinch a couple of wins and also hope that Port and Collingwood lose a couple on the road home, which I don't think it's actually going to happen at all. Now, my team, Melbourne, they are sputtering right now. We're going to get into their goal-kicking efficiency, which has gone completely backwards in the last, I think it's 4 or 5 weeks. They have still got a top 4 position. They are on 36 points. A lot of percentage in front of St Kilda, who they play this week, funny enough, and the Western Bulldogs, all on 36 points. So they are going to be clamouring, I believe, for that 4th spot. And then you've got the Adelaide Crows and Essendon rounding out the final 8. So Essendon supporters, you're going to be playing finals for the first time, it looks like, at the moment after 16 rounds, sitting on 32 points. Geelong Cats sitting just outside the 8, but we know they've got a lot of games to flow in on the back end of the season down there at GMHBA Stadium on 30. GWS, after their mini upset, I would say, over the Ds with Fremantle, with Gold Coast, all on 28 points. And you'd think that's about it. I can't see Sydney. Carlton need a minor miracle, and Richmond need a minor miracle, all on 26 points. Hawthorn on 14, and we're going to have a crack at them as well. North Melbourne on 8, and we know we've also got the Wet Toast Eagles, 4 points, 49%. They actually showed a little bit hard on the weekend, which was great to see, but I don't know how long it is going to last. They are just looking forward to getting the Harley Reid Cup presented towards them at the end of the season. All right, so if I look at it right now, I would say Melbourne are very, very susceptible in that 4th spot. I don't want to say it, but I have to say it. They're not looking too flash, I must admit. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that they have a lot of games with teams outside of the 8. They do have a couple with the ones inside the 8, so it's got a mini type of run, but you'll tend to find a lot of those teams play each other as well, too. It's also going to be teams that get to play teams like Hawthorn, West Coast, and North Melbourne in the bottom few rounds that could potentially make the difference between them, not just making the 8, but also getting a home final or sneaking into that top 4. So it's going to be very interesting with, can you believe, only 8 rounds to go of AFL footy for this season. It is absolutely boonana, mind bonkers balloon. All right. Our boy, Jacob Grant, in the journey of the draft. Do you remember last week I told you that he was playing for Vic Cruncher? He went over there. They got a win, but unfortunately he didn't have the greatest game. So hopefully he's going to be able to redeem himself this week against the Allies down at Icon Park. So get a chance to sneak down there. We're going to follow him all the way to the draft. He just needs to have a really good burst out game for the recruiters to say, hey, this guy's got some spunk about him, and we want to get around him as well too, all right? So for you, BG, for actually getting a game on Friday night, round of applause for you, great man, because you are going to be a superstar, in my humble opinion, and we are going to follow you all the way to the draft itself. All right, time to spin some magnets. And look, I'm going to start with a bit of this first of all.
Haley off, Ellingworth on. Bloody weak as piss.
All right, first team I'm going to give a massive whack to, and I'm dragging them big time, is the Melbourne Football Club. On the weekend, they lost another game with bad goal kicking. Now, I just want to put this in perspective for you all, everybody. In the last 5 rounds, they have gone at 39-73. And when you consider they've lost 2 of those games by under a goal, they've gone from potentially locking in a top 4 spot and no one even getting near them to potentially dropping out completely out of the top 4. And there's even a slight chance, if they continue this trend, to not even get a finals appearance. I think that they are going to make it, but the chances of them controlling their own destiny have gone completely out the window as well. So really, really just a travesty what's happened to this club. I had a bit of a rant about them on the Sunday evening about what happened. I was absolutely gutted. To have that many 72 inside 50s or 75 inside 50s and to only kick a small margin of goals, 5-15, you can't do that. And it doesn't matter which team you are. I couldn't care if you were Collingwood. I couldn't care if you were Port. I couldn't care if you were West Coast. To be able to only kicking 8 goals on average a game in the last 5 weeks has been absolutely shite house. And they need to start working out something quick. And the issue is it's been going on for literally 2 years since they won the grand final. They haven't been able to get that finals mix right in their forward 50, and that connection, the connection has not been there as well. Actually, you can hear the connection with the Melbourne forwards and the midfielders right now as well too. That's our average has been. All right. Next one I want to point out is there was a game on the weekend which we all got to have a bit of a look about. It was a game between the Sydney Swans and the game between Geelong as well. Now, I'm not too sure if you've seen any of the highlights, but all I can say is when you watch this game, you need to put some backing music onto it. And this is the backing music, especially in that last quarter, that you need to play. Because this is what was going on with this team. It was the Benny Hill Stakes. Guys missing goals, no one wanting to take control of the game, skill errors left, right and centre. People putting it out on the floor every which way you look. Oh, it was an absolute shocker. And even the 3AW coverage threw a bit of Benny Hill music on the game as well. So for Geelong, who are a massive show to get back into finals contention, to see what they served up. And then to also see what Sydney served up, especially the week before getting 200 points. Those two teams really had to have a good, hard look at themselves, especially when you see that both teams combined for, now get this, 13 goals, 30. No one's going to win footy. No one's going to win footy games doing that sort of thing too. So to Sydney and Geelong, it wasn't pleasurable at all. So for those two, I am dragging you in. And now it's time for me to give out some of my votes as well too. Okay, this is in the chat for this particular episode. I'd love to hear what you'd be giving a bit of dragged action, because I would love to hear from you. It's time to give some 3 votes.
3 votes.
What was that?
3 votes.
All right, 3 votes. I want to give 3 votes to a team on the weekend that has been nothing short of putrid all season, even last season as well. But for literally 3 quarters of football, we sat there with bated breath. And I know Buzz, the great Buzz who joins us every single week on Lace Out, has been joining us for years on Lace Out, would have been packing darkies if he had lost to West Coast. You've got to remember, up until about 5 minutes into the last quarter, West Coast were in front of St Kilda, which nobody would have picked at all. I think even in Tipped Out, I said that this would be an absolute run in the park, but nothing surprises me with the Saints at the moment. They are up and down like a yo-yo. But West Coast, they were smashed the week before by an absolute 171-point margin. Disgusting from every way you look at it. And for them to come out and do with the players that they had out, they've played 40 players this year. 40 players. And put that in perspective, some clubs have gone through with around about 32, 33 at most. So they have had a lot of their big names out for a long time. Getting smashed the week before and to be able to come out and virtually pinch a game against a potential top 8 team was a massive pat on the back. And so it's sometimes not about the victory, which they didn't get. We know that they lost in the long run. But it was also just the way that they came out and played a lot more attacking. Did it say more about St Kilda or did it say more about West Coast? A little bit of both. But it was just good to see a team who had been struggling the week before to come out and have a good old crack. And kicking 12 goals, 5, love the accuracy as well. So for the beautiful West Coast Eagles, congratulations as well. All right. I'd also like to give a bit of a pat on the back to, it has been mentioned quite a number of times. They did say after this game that Houston, we don't have a problem anymore. And what Dan Houston did after the siren to Essendon would have cost every Essendon supporter
emotional, damn it.
After seeing him slot that. You've got to look back at and have a look and put all the pieces of this puzzle together. He's taken a mark pretty much on the 50. He's had to go back, waterlogged ball. Conditions, if you've ever tried to kick a wet football, it's like trying to kick a bar of soap. It is virtually impossible. Drop punt. He flushed it after the siren. Big crowd there at the G as well too. And for him to put that through was, honestly, I'd have to say it would almost go top 5 all-time clutch goals after the siren. And I'm talking ones like Robbie Gray from the boundary. I'm talking Malcolm Blight after the boundary, after the game. I'm talking Jamie Elliott. These sort of goals which have changed seasons. And that would have broken their streak if that didn't go through, and also propel Essendon potentially into almost top 4 potential. And it's completely spun it. So for that to go through was absolutely mind-blowing. But more importantly, just the quality of that game between the two teams. I've given Essendon a lot of stick over the years, a lot to do with their supporters, but I will say this, you are on the right track. You're missing a couple of the pieces to get your puzzle working absolutely flawlessly, but the growth that your club has had over this 12 months or this season so far, give yourselves a pat on the back. And isn't it interesting? When there's no shit going off the field, there's no shit on the field, and you've got your shit going on beautifully at the moment. So there's my votes. There's who's getting dragged. That means the magnets have been spun for the round 16 review from Lace Out. Who did you want to give a pat on the back? Leave a comment in the show notes. All right. The AFL Coaches Award, we said we'd start to get into a bit of movement with this because over the weekend, a certain individual, don't know if you've heard about him, young bloke for Collingwood called Nick Dacos, just decided to rack up a couple more votes as well too, and is now in front of the AFL Coaches Award on 82 votes, 6 in front of the wonderful Zach Butters, a.k.a. Marge, as we've called him. Christian Petrarca picked up another couple as well too. He's on dinner for 2 on 69. Lockie Neal, Tim Taranto, Jordan Dawson, Jack Sinclair, Zach Merritt, and the Bont. I'll even go down as far as Connor Rozee and Caleb Sarong are the others in contention at the moment. But if you're looking at it now, it's Dacos, it is Zach Butters, and it's Christian Petrarca. And I'll put it this way. If Melbourne win, Petrarca's going to get votes. Okay? There's a lot of reliance on him at the moment, except for his goal kicking, which is absolutely woeful. But more importantly, I do like what Nick Dacos is bringing. He'll probably win the Brownlow this year, win it quite easily, even though people like Tim Taranto, Lachie Neale, and Butters are going to be coming hard for him. I would definitely say that Dacos, in his second year of football as a 20-year-old, will go down as a Brownlow medalist. There's only one person that I know has done it in their first year of football, being Brad Hardy. Going into the second and third year of football, we're not going to know. Sorry about that, listeners. So Lachie Neale picked up the perfect 10 as well, too, in his game against Richmond. Jamara Ugle-Hagan, he's looking mighty fine, I must admit. He picked up the perfect 10 as well, too. So did Nick Dacos. So did the Eagle Islander when it comes to Dan Houston. And Adam Cerra probably go down and win Carlton's best and fairest this year. He was a bit average last year and has been pretty good this year as well, too. Jack Viney and Josh Kelly picked up 9s for their game in the NT this weekend as well. Alrighty. I reckon it's a perfect opportunity now to talk about this week's Rising Star, which is the awesome, amazing Luke Pedlar from the Adelaide Football Club. So he's been recognised not just for the weekend's game, but for a string of pretty good performances for his AFL Rising Star nomination for round 16. So the 183 midfielder produced arguably his best game of his career with a standout 66-point thumping of North Melbourne on Saturday. He kicked 2 goals, collected 11 disposals, 5 contested, and had 4 tackles at the Adelaide Oval as his side continues their push for finals. So Lukey Pedlar, as I like to call him here on the Lace Out podcast, congratulations, young man, for what you did for your start to your career. You are this week's Rising Star winner. And I like the cut of this young man's jib. And I reckon he's got a pretty big future in the game as well, too. So, well done, young man. And we'll see if he's going to take it out next year. But, can I say one other thing? When I talk about the Rising Star, I have a little bit of a flutter at the moment going on the Rising Star. And my man, Mitchy Owens, kicked 4 on the weekend. So fingers crossed, everybody here at Lace Out, that he gets across the line, because if he does, kids are getting a new PlayStation 5. Oh, yeah. And won't they be happy for that? They'll be giving me a few of these. All right. Okay. Let's go and have a look at some trades. Your wallets, peeps, because you know what that's time for. When we're talking money, we're talking about this.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money,
Dollar, dollar.
dollar, dollar.
Ching, ching, bling, bling, got the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no
All right,
matter.
let's get into
Ching,
some trades.
ching, bling,
Let's
bling.
get into some trades. Let's get into some trade information. Let's have a look at some of these that are going to be going through. All right. So from a trades perspective, and it's looking like we're starting to get a bit of movement in terms of some rumours, innuendo starting to float through the rates. So big clubs. I reckon there's going to be 2 big clubs going nuts. I think there's going to be more this year. A lot of people are saying that Essendon and Geelong and Sydney and Melbourne are going to be the clubs that are definitely going to be looking to get some trade value this year. All for different reasons. Some of them have got space in their cap. Others have got the draft picks to be able to do something with them as well, too. And I'm talking about Melbourne in that perspective. I don't know, Geelong are obviously looking at people who are from the Geelong region from their younger years to be able to pull them to be able to play some games. We're also looking at people trying to get them up to Brisbane as well, too. Destination clubs as well. And we know that Carlton are always on the move. If someone like a De Koning or a Mackay comes, they're going to be getting some capital back in to be able to move with that as well too. So a lot of the bigger clubs are going to be hoping to secure some of the big movers this year. But at the moment, not too sure on what they are, but they're probably the 4 clubs that we're looking at it. A couple of clubs are definitely looking at Devon Robertson. I don't think he's going to go anywhere at the moment. He's going to stay pretty much with Brisbane. Why would you want to leave a club that's potentially got a flag in them in the next couple of years? People are looking at Lockie Whitfield once again coming up to trade time as well too. You're getting a pretty good salary there from the GWS, and so depending on whether GWS have to pay anything of that, we're not too sure. Only if he will be a delisted free or going to be a free agent, but he won't be because he's got a contract until 2027. So I would see if someone decided to pick up Whitfield, GWS would have to pay a pretty good portion of that contract to get him off the books as well too. Mason Redmond, we've spoken about him every single week, I reckon, for the last 5 to 6. He's not going to go anywhere, same as Darcy Parish as well too. Tom Doty's been getting a bit of a reach around from the Brisbane Football Club. He's saying, look, it's great, but I'm pretty much going to stay where I am. Not Mason Redmond. We're talking about the Miles Bergman. He'll probably stay at Port Adelaide as well too. He's been pretty good so far this year. And why would you want to go anywhere? And I'd also say that Liam Henry is also looking at getting some interest from Melbourne as well too. We know he's got a bit of a connection there with Cozzy Pickett. So it'd be good to see if we could get him across as well too, but what's it going to cost clubs as well too. Also, a bit of a left field one as well too is the Gold Coast's leading goal kicker in the VFL is getting a bit of not scrutiny, a bit of attention, Brodie McLaughlin, because being the premier goal kicker in the league so far, has kicked 34 goals from 12 appearances. So you're pretty much looking at 3 a game, which is a really healthy return. There's a lot of people sort of looking at him, and if he's not going to go with Gold Coast, he is one of their sort of academy picks, so they've got first dibs on him. But whether he's going to stay is going to be another thing altogether. So there are going to be clubs looking at him as well too. He is a mature age, 25 years of age, so he pretty much would be able to slot straight in and could be a good foil for a couple of clubs as well too. So that's it. That's what we're talking about, trade, splashing the cash, a bit of money. That's where it all comes down to. So it's time to now go with the bit that I like to talk about is Around the Grounds and check out the scoreboard. For this week's edition of let's have a little chat over the games, what I noticed, what I thought, and some of the key stats to come out of it as well. But if everybody on the chat with me tonight, join in, have a bit of a look, give us your opinion on what you saw and what you've heard. And I'd love to hear from each and every single one of you. All right. So we know it all kicked off last week. It was a Thursday night game. It was up there at the Jabba the Hutt. And the Brisbane Lions literally destroyed everything that Richmond could have brought to the game. They were absolutely sensational. Brisbane, geez, when they get their tails, no pun intended, firing up there at the Gabba, how good are they? Like, that is why it is important for them to get at least 2 home finals, because just like Port Adelaide, they are going to be hard to beat at their home ground. They smashed Richmond and absolutely blew them apart in every statistical factor that you could look at. You could look at everything from, we know everything from a games perspective. They smashed them. All 30 votes, coaches' votes went to them as well too. When you got 30 more inside 50s, 26 more contested possessions, you've got 21 more scoring shots. Your disposal efficiency was 6% higher than the opposition. You didn't just win the game, you dominated it. And it was literally everybody across the board. Joe Danaher was absolutely sensational. Lockie Neal, once again, picked up another 10 votes. He could win another Brownlow. This guy has already won 1, potentially could win 2, has come second in another one. He's almost a modern day Scott West, modern day Robin Harvey, the way he's going at the moment. Good to see Davey Salt on there as well too. We're going to get into the question about why can't Melbourne kick goals at the moment. Will Ashcroft, he's just doing his thing. Darcy Wilmot was awesome. There wasn't really anybody outside, probably Noah Bolter, Broad and Vlosten. And obviously the back line are going to be awesome because when the ball's coming in that often, they had to just keep repelling it. But I just loved everything what they did. Like Hugh McCluggey just had 34 and gone at 82%. Like that's a guy who's playing wing football. And I feel that he's been a bit down over the last few weeks. I know he had a bit of a health injury over obviously the last couple. But even before that, he probably wasn't at his best. But he really came back and delivered on the weekend. You've even got someone, like I said, Will Ashcroft. He went at 85% as well too. Even Kitty Coleman, like he didn't have much over 23 touches, but he went at 600 metres gained. So he was getting it and pumping it along to the forwards. I just love the way that Hipple was moving up the ground as well too, becoming that linchpin. Someone needs to give him a smack around the ears because he's an absolute flog. And one day he's going to cop one. It'll be legal, but he's going to cop one because of he's just smart assy clapping in people's faces, mate. You've done nothing in your career so far. You're playing second fiddle to Joe Danaher, and until you win a game off your own boot this year, don't worry about what happened last year, and until you actually get to the big dance and produce, don't go clapping your hands in front of 3-time premiership players saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, because you're an absolute flog, and you can go and sit with the English cricket team if you're going to produce that sort of stuff as well too. But Brisbane, like I said, they're going all right at the moment. They've pretty much locked in a top 3 spot. They're a couple of games from a top 2. Richmond, are they going to make finals? I did tip them not to make them at the start of the year, and I'm standing by that, but they've got some crunch games moving up over the next few weeks, especially this week. They've got Sydney. If they win that, then they've got Melbourne. They're a massive chance to maybe sneak in, but I'm still thinking that there's going to be other teams that leapfrog them, such as Geelong, etc. So Brisbane did what they had to do. Richmond would be really disappointed with what they served up over the weekend, and it's interesting for both teams where they're going to finish at the end of the season. All right. Essendon and Port Adelaide. We know what happened at this game. Don't worry about the miracle on grass. It was the miracle at the G, or the grounding at the G, or Houston has no problem from Fitty with the goal after the siren to win that one. It was a bloody hell. Like I said, it is literally one of the best after the goal moments I have seen. Be in my top 5 easily for what they delivered. But both these teams smashed the living bejesus out of each other, and it wasn't the greatest night from a conditions perspective, but 10-14 to 11-12. Port Adelaide by 4 points. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It was great for footy. Zach Merritt, he's got to be All-Australian this year. He's taken the captaincy and literally run with it. He has been sensational. But when you look at the spread of players, Zach Merritt, Farrell, Houston, who picked up the 10 coaches' votes as well too. Connor Rosie was magnificent. Mason Redmond just doing his thing down back. Jai Corbell had a couple of late moments in the game that got them in front. Like I said, Essendon, besides them in Adelaide, I would say the most improved team this year. And that's great for Essendon supporters and probably not great for the rest of us because you know what that means, that they're going to be strutting themselves, peacocking them around the western suburbs. But Port Adelaide, they just keep winning, keep doing what they're doing. And once again, if they need 2 home finals. Doesn't guarantee anything because we've seen them fall over in a prelim, a guaranteed grand final slot against the Western Bulldogs a number of years ago and fell in a complete hole. But yeah, it was so even across the ground when you look at the main statistical analysis. Essendon did dominate the hitouts, but we know that because Lysette went out just before the game in the warm-up. But inside 50s, 50 to 55. Contested possessions, there was only 19 different. Clearances, there was only 2 difference. Marks, there was only 5 difference. Contested marks, there was only 2 differences. Even shots, 2 difference. Goals, 1 difference. So it was just that back and forth. It was a complete arm wrestle for the whole night. You think Port would get in front. You think Essendon would get in front. Essendon did get in front. They were going to snatch it away, and then we saw what happened at the end. And that's why they say the moment maketh the man, and He'd already had an absolute blinder of a night, and for him to do what he did, Dan Houston, absolutely sensational. I love what they're doing at the moment, Port Adelaide, and I love Jamie the J-Dog Wallace because he would be absolutely Chubbs Farquharing about right now. So he's a very, very happy man. We hope to get him on shortly in a future episode towards the end of the season because he'll be loving to talk about his Port Adelaide mob. All right. Want to go back to the Friday night game. We heard about this a little bit earlier on. They did get dragged because it was an absolute Barry Crocker and a half. And you know the one that we're talking about. We're talking about the AFL game between the Swans and Geelong. 54 apiece, 5 goals, 12. Sorry, start again. It was 6 goals, 18 to 7 goals, 12. 13-30 in total. When you got a bloke running into an open goal, top of the goal square, Robbie Fox, I'm talking about you, and the great man Louis Carranza, massive fan of Lace Out, threw it on the group chat during the game, moved Fox forward. He went forward. He moved forward. He hit the furthest goalpost from 8 metres out. And it was Betty Hill. It was everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong in this game. It was literally a game where nobody wanted to win. Isaac Heaney, 3 out of bounds on the full. Out of bounds. What did he do?
Out of bounds on the full.
Out of bounds on the full. 3 of them. It was just back and forth. The kicking efficiencies of some players who got an absolute truckload of it was putrid. Dangerfield went at 53. Papley went at 66. Tom Hickey was a ruckman. He doesn't kick it all that well. He can't. No skill. 50%. Asava Radaglia had his probably worst game, even got subbed out when it was going at 50%. Max Holmes, an absolute corker of a season he's had. He had 37. So it was just a yucky, awful game. Nobody wanted to win it. I don't even know how they gave coaches votes for this game, to be honest. Errol Goulden did get the 8. Nick Blakey, the Lizard, he got his 7. Brandon Campbell got the 4 as well too. But even when you have a look, Errol Goulden had 26 and went at 42%. Brian Myers had his 27 and went at 55. He's probably he's a chance for an All-Australian wingman, maybe bench spot as well too. His efficiency going forward and setting players up has been nothing short of amazing this entire year as well too. So kudos to him. But it was an ugly game of football. The efficiencies were quite down. Funny enough, they were both equal on inside 50s for both. Contested possessions, Geelong had more of it. City had more clearances. They had more shots. They just couldn't kick. It reminded me a lot of the game that was up in Darwin, but they had at least rain and torrential rain and cake of soap that they were kicking around. There was no excuse for these two teams. So, bit of a disappointing one. But for the people who were saying get rid of the draw, this is the reason why we have draws. It's a result, and no team deserved to win that game. Both of them deserved to come out on equal points, 2 points each. And it's going to put a dent in both their chances making finals. I still have a lot of faith in Geelong making it with their run at GMHBA Stadium towards the back end of the season. All right. It was Adelaide and North Melbourne Football Club. Look, Adelaide 66-point victors. They had to do what they had to do. They got out to an absolute flying start at the start of the game. I would say something, though. Isaac Rankin is, we knew it was coming, but he's just a gun. He's kicked 5. He's had 17. No behinds. He's only had 6 shots, so must have one of those that didn't make the distance, so go out on the full. And when you couple that with Tex Walker, you couple that with Riley O'Brien, you couple that with Luke Pedler as well too. I mentioned earlier on Darcy Fogarty. Like these guys are just they've got the most dangerous forward line, to be honest. And I don't think it's going to be this year, but I'd be really looking out for next season for Adelaide to make a massive shot at top 4. They're going to get another season into these guys. Tex Walker's only getting better. They've got Phil Thorpe down there. Fogarty, I reckon they're better. I thought the twin towers of McKay and Kernay, I reckon they've overtaken them. And I'd even go as far as saying Hawkins Cameron at the moment because Cameron's injured and Hawkins isn't at his best. They are the new twin towers, Fogarty and Tex Walker. But they just do what they have to do every single week. And Jordan Dawson, how many times do we have to speak about him? How many times do we have to talk about Riley O'Brien doing his thing in the ruck? How many times do we have to talk about Rory Laird getting another All-Australian. They've just got winners across the board. Even people like Chase Jones, like, doesn't get a lot of it. He only had 16 on the weekend, but he's just contributing week after week after week. They are actually a really exciting team to watch, and what they did to North Melbourne in the early stages of that game, especially when they had 34 scoring shots to 17, they have smashed them, and we expected that. The 7 goals, 2 to 4 goals, one was a nice start in the first quarter, but then when that blew out to 12 goals, like when you have a 5-goal second quarter, 5-goal third quarter, and a 4-goal fourth quarter, you are humming on all cylinders. That's what we expect out of premiership teams, and if they're doing it and they're not right at their peak, the Darren Burgess effect is massive, and Stevie Nicks has got a great group under him. North Melbourne, look, they had a crack, couldn't do much more about it. My tip for the Coleman, as I mentioned at the start of the year, and I keep going back to this, Nick Larkey, he's going to be there for many, many more years at North Melbourne. Is it going to be a wasted opportunity? No, I don't think so, but they were good. He's good. They're just a young team. It's going to be interesting when Clarkson comes back. Is it going to be a positive or a negative to this team? Because since Ratton's taken over, they've been playing a great round, a great form of football, and I would love to see them continue that. They're not as bad as people think. They're probably playing better than Hawthorn, and I think they're definitely playing better than West Coast as well too. So they've got a core. They just need to flesh that out a little bit more. So they're going to get another couple of good draft picks at the end of this year. Use them like they've done with Wardlaw and Sheasel. Sheasel, keeps you. I've been calling him the Sheasel all year. The Sheasel, and they'll be a massive chance to just move up the ladder and get that growth under Clarkson as well too. All right. Next game after the weekend, when we had a look at it, was Western Bulldogs and Fremantle. Look, I think I picked the Bulldogs. Fremantle, I just don't rate them anywhere outside of Perth, unless they're playing Melbourne, which they'll beat over the last 2 times at the G. But the Western Bulldogs, Jamari Ugle-Hagan, 10 coaches' votes, breakout season for him. I think the first couple of years we thought, has he got it? He's now growing into his body. The way he launches at marks, his one grab, I really like it. He needs to be their target, not Norton. Norton's now becoming more of a luxury. And I think when you need to, you have to slot him down back because you can't have him. You can't have Lobb. You can't have Ugle-Hagan all down there. It's just taking up too much tall timber, unfortunately. But even like people like Cody Waitman doing his thing, the Bont doing his thing every single week, it's just great to see a club who consistently take on teams and beat them when they should, but then they have lapses. And I think their back line, without Liam Jones, stood up really well over the weekend. But I think it is going to make it hard for them finals time if they don't have not just Liam Jones, but if Alex Keith is not playing good football as well too, it's going to make it really hard. I know he hasn't been in best form recently. Josh Bruce, I don't think is a backman. He is a forward. Can't get into that forward line, which is a shame as well too. So where's his career at the end of this season? I can't give you an answer on that one as well too. But from a coach's perspective, like I said, the Ugle got the 10. It's Caleb Sarong. He has to be an All-Australian this year because he has been sensational. How many times has he single-handedly kept Fremantle in games this year? Tom Liberatore, I don't know where you put him, bench spot. It's going to be hard to get him into the midfield, but he is their barometer when Libba plays well, the Doggies play well as well too. The Bont, cracker of a game, 27 touches, 512 metres gained, attended 90% of the centre bounces as well, 2 kicked a goal. They're going along. They're going along okay. Jack McRae, Mr. Reliable. Michael Walters, he's had a bit of a renaissance over the last couple of weeks as well too. So Fremantle for games. These are the games that they need to win if they want to make finals. And unfortunately, they couldn't get the job done. And that is the issue with them. They are still a little bit flaky, I think, above the between the ears, above the ears. I was going to say above the shoulders, between the ears. I still think they are a little bit flaky, but they have got an absolute cracker there in Jai Amiss. He is an absolute gun and is a massive chance for the rising star as well too. So Doggies, they keep their top 4 aspirations, especially after Melbourne lost on the weekend. They are still a chance to make top 4, but they have to keep winning and rely on other clubs to keep losing. And Fremantle, with losses like this, is going to make them even harder for them to be playing finals all stuff. All righty. Rightio. Let's go to the next game from the weekend. Looking at some Sunday games as well too. One last game. Gold Coast versus Collingwood. Really not much to say when your team wins by 72 points and Josh Dacos kills it. Probably said more about Gold Coast. They're just not ready. This was their litmus test. Biggest game, biggest sellout for quite a number of years, and they failed again. They've gone down by 13 goals at home. I thought it'd be a lot tighter than that, but that just goes to show Collingwood are the show. Premiership favourites. I thought Port Adelaide were. Then I look at what Collingwood did to a team that were playing cracking footy. There's not much more I can say about Collingwood because they went up there, destroyed them, absolutely destroyed them. I think at one stage the score was something like, it was 11 goals 6 at halftime to 1 goal 4. And when I saw that, good old Gold Coast Suns, they just got stage fright and just got beaten by a hell of a lot better team and a hell of a lot better coaching department as well. All right, let's move on to the Sunday games. Funny enough, we had a full contingent of footy on the weekend, which was actually pretty good to see. We haven't had it for quite a while, and it was disappointing to see 4 bye rounds. That's got to stop. Hawthorn versus Carlton. Hawthorn. I think they didn't kick a goal in 5 quarters of football. Or 6 quarters of football. 5 points at halftime. Like, I know Melbourne did that in a prelim. That was probably the worst effort. But Hawthorn just poo, and then they come out at 3-quarter time and kick halftime and kick 3 goals. Again, they did that against Melbourne. They come out and kick 5. So the talent's there, but do they just need to rev up? I just think that they're young, they're inexperienced, and you're going to have to take the pain. But Hawthorn supporters know when you take the pain, the pleasure will come out at the end. And you got 3 flags the last time this happened. You haven't got the caliber of Raffed, Franklin, Lewis, the guy that went up to Brisbane. Forgot his name. You know what I'm talking about. Coming through. But you've got a future, and you've got, I reckon, an all right coach there. So Carlton, they leave their chances to play finals again, still on the board. I had Mackay to kick 6. He didn't. They did what they had to do. They got the win. Good to see, though. Good to see the Carlton get a win after their last number of weeks. And like I said, Adam Chera, earlier on in the episode, Adam Chera was pretty good as well, too. Like I said, getting the 10 coaches' votes. Jack Silvani, funny enough, was the highest-rated player on the ground, going at 17 and 76% efficiency. But also, you got to remember, he spent some time in the ruck and had 12 hit-outs and 10 score involvement. So, just going to show the guy can play, but he can't get a game. But when he plays, they win. I don't get it. And probably a lot of people don't get it as well, too, for Carlton supporters.
Emotional, damn it.
All right. And for Hawthorn, really not much to crow about as well, too. No coaches' votes. No one really did anything, so we're just going to move on from that game. All right. Melbourne. GWS. I know you've been waiting for this one, listeners. I was feral, 45-47, 5 goals, 15 to 7 goals, 5. GWS went by 2 points. I really don't know. If being a Melbourne supporter, there's some major issues going on there. So a question came in earlier on from Davey Salt. Same questions. Why can't forwards kick goals? If you are on 200K, would you kick straight a beat under pressure? Can you give me an example of the decline stat-wise over a few years? Well, you've caught me on the hop there, Dave. I don't have that with me right now, but it's something that I might have to follow up on. But I can say, if you missed it earlier on, listeners, Melbourne so far this season have gone at 39 goals, 73 in their last 5 weeks. Now, Lee Mack, I don't even know why he's on the show tonight and why he's having a listen, because Hawthorn were putrid on the weekend, but he says no Sicily, no Hawks. Well, that's pretty crappy when he's your only player. But, and he's also said the Hawks will win another flag before the D's. Mate, I wouldn't be surprised at the moment because my team is absolutely woeful. There is no forward connection. And the issue that I have with the coaching department is I do not see any change in their game plan whatsoever. The way they deliver it, no change whatsoever. There's been no improvement in this area for 2 years. 2 years. So I'm talking about 2 preseasons to get this right, and they haven't been able to. McDonald's not the answer. Ben Brown is not the answer. Van Rooyen is not the answer yet, even though he kicked 4 in the VFL, 3 on the VFL on the weekend. Jefferson kicked 4 in the VFL on the weekend. He's not ready. So they've got a couple to go, but they're just not ready for this year. Chandler's been crappy. Cozzy Pickett's been woeful. AMB has been woeful. Petrarca's been woeful in front. So everybody has just been crap. Now, I will say, if anybody watched the game, it was wet, it was awful. But we're talking set shots, goals that we think people should be kicking, didn't. You had 70. Now, this is the stat that I mentioned a little bit to you earlier on, listeners. Melbourne had 73 inside 50s, 27 more than the opposition, and lost. They smashed everything across the park. They smashed contested possessions 187 to 143. Clearances, they won by 20. Marks, they won by 3. Contested marks by 2. They had 14 more scoring shots and still lost. And this is the tale of Melbourne, not just for this year, but for the last 2 years, is that their forward line is not working. And for whatever reason, the coaching department put their head in the sand and don't do anything about it. So I don't have the answer for you. I don't have the answer for you, David. I just think they're just not good enough. They're just not good enough. And I called them a false economy last year. The false economy is turning into the real recession, the recession of goals. And it's really getting frustrating. I will give GWS credit, though. They made the most of their opportunities. Toby Green is a gun. Josh Kelly, when you finally watch this guy, if he was playing at a bigger club, he would be a superstar. But he gets held up there. He's back to his fine form that he's been having for quite a while, but I reckon for the last year or two has been a little bit thin. Jack Buckley was pretty good. Gorm was okay. Lever was okay. Bowser was okay. Jack Viney was amazing. And Petrarca was pretty good as well too. But you lose another game like that. So they've lost the Fremantle game by a bee's dick. They lost the Geelong game by 2.5 goals. And they've lost this game by 2 points. Plus the goal, the Brisbane game at the start of the year where they lost by 18 points after being absolutely smashed for most of the game. They could have been sitting top 2, but in my humble opinion, they don't deserve it. They're doing everything from a defensive perspective. They're doing everything from a midfield perspective. Everything going forward line is poo. So it's in their hands. It's in their destiny. They're playing the Saints this week, Buzz's team, and he's going to get absolutely stuck in him. He's got great Sunday afternoon watching GWS overrun the Ds, then turning it over for a great second half forward looking to Saturday night. Mate, Buzz, you forgot the part where you were packing darkies with what West Coast had done to you as well too. So yeah, GWS did run over the Ds. It was basically a 60-metre kick that won in the game. But GWS slim chances of making finals. Melbourne slim chances of making top 4 are still in play. And let's go to the game that we spoke about right at the start of the episode, the 8-point win to St Kilda. But this game said more about West Coast because they came back after being beaten by 171 points the week before and absolutely turning it on. We loved to see it. What went wrong for St Kilda? I don't have the answers here. That they were outworked, they were outplayed. It was a little bit of West Coast of old, and I would have loved for them to win it. I would have loved to win it so I could come in here and go back to real shit Kilda. They're still St Kilda at the moment, but they would have been shit Kilda for literally 3.5 quarters. But from a West, it's interesting though, if you have a look at the coaches' votes, Rowan Marshall got 7. Shuey, captain's game, got the 7 as well too. Mitch Owens, my guy for the Rising Star, he got the 7. Jack Sinclair got 5. Barras got 3 and Steele got 1. So for a team that literally dominated a game, not to be rewarded with the coaches' votes, a little bit disappointing. But they were great. They were everything that they needed. Shannon Hurd coming out of fullback as well too. 628 metres gained. A lot of that would have been coming out of fullback with kicks as well, after especially kicking 13 points. But my guy, Mitchie Owens, absolutely love what he's been doing. He had another 4 goals on the weekend. He's got to be a chance for the Rising Star. We've spoken about Anthony Calamiti. Can't believe this guy got through his drafts. Got picked up at the start of the season. He's been a really good pickup for them. Oscar Allen's been good for them. Dan Butler was good, was getting back to his range, his goal kicking prowess. That's probably been a little bit lacking over the last little bit. Elijah Hewitt and Snags Higgins also did his thing with a usual 1 goal for as well too. But no, it was really good to see the disposal efficiency. They beat St Kilda by 10%, 78 to 68 on the disposal efficiency side of things as well too. There was a lot of chipping around the ground, so they had 30 more marks within them, but they had 13 less scoring shots as well too. So they were using the ball quite a fair bit around the ground, hell of a lot more efficient with inside 50s. Out-tackled St Kilda, but I think just with St Kilda's experience and St Kilda's nous got them across the line, but that'd be a game that they wouldn't have been too happy with. So that's that. That is this week's
Scoreboard!
for round 16 AFL action. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tipped out, got 8 out of 9 winners last week, so I was on the ball. Unfortunately, my mob let me down, so tune in again this weekend for my tips for a massive round 17. If I'm going 1 week at a time and looking forward to the games this week, geez, there's a couple of corkers. Pretty much whoever wins this might make finals, and we're talking about Richmond and Sydney, but I think both clubs might have left their run a little bit late. Can the Western Bulldogs take down Collingwood at Marvel Stadium? If they lose that, top 4 aspirations are literally out the window. Brisbane, can they smash the West Coast Eagles, and how much can they smash them by to get that percentage, to get back into that hope for a top 2 spot? Giants versus Hawthorn. Can the Giants win another one and keep their small sniff of September action alive? Saints versus Melbourne, 7:25 Marvel Stadium will be, I reckon, game of the week. St Kilda need to win to stay in the finals race. Melbourne need to win to stay in top 4 hunt. Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast Suns as well too. And you would also probably go Essendon Adelaide will be a corker. That'll be a fast, high-scoring game at Marvel Stadium. And Fremantle versus Carlton, loser, season's over. There you go, listeners. I'm Peps, and that's Lace Out's round 16 review of AFL action. Remember, join me every single week, Monday night, for Lace Out. Tipped out later in the week. Like I said, if you want to guest host the show with me in the remaining weeks, drop me a message on the Lace Out AFL Podcast Facebook page and join me live on the show. Got a couple people organised already. J-Dog will definitely be back when he gets back from his Balinese soiree as well too. So I'm Chris Pepper, and we give you your footy just how you want it. Lace out. Have a great week. Hope your team wins, except if you're St Kilda. And thanks for listening. Give us a like, give us a share, and tell everybody about how awesome we are. Take care, listeners.